Hey everyone, Julie Boye here. Welcome back. We're talking about self-love and self-care with my project to learn personally how to be better at taking care of myself. I'm super excited for my guest today, Lisa Petty. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi.
So glad we could do this. We've reconnected after we haven't seen each other in a number of years. And
Yes.
just for those of you who haven't met Lisa before, she actually used to be in the public eye a lot. She's an award-winning journalist. She's an author. She's a researcher who actually just had a beautiful shift in the kind of work that she's doing. And that's actually how we got connected. So I found out that Lisa is currently doing her PhD in applied health sciences, and her focus is all around women, really a focus on women's well-being and self-care. So I just thought, what an amazing opportunity for us to connect. I am personally doing this research for myself, and you are literally doing this as research for your PhD. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, you have such an amazing journey. Could you share with us a little bit about how you got where you are today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm really excited to talk about what I'm doing because, as any academic is probably prepared to tell you, we never get to talk about our research ever, ever, ever. So this is really exciting. As you mentioned, I was in the public eye a lot. I am a holistic nutritionist by training, and I've always used that platform for education. So I would write articles for magazines, and I would do speaking events. I had my own radio show for 5 years in the Niagara area, which is where I live, and I produced and hosted that call-in talk radio show every week for almost 5 years. And I used that opportunity again to teach folks how to create a healthier body. And at the end of 5 years, so I'd been in the industry, I guess, around, 15 years or so at that point. I was personally feeling creatively drained. I felt like there was something missing for me personally, excuse me. And at the same time sort of that I was doing this radio show, I always had a few nutrition clients on the side. And I always have worked exclusively with women because, we're the ones who run the carpools, and we're the ones who sort of take on the lion's share of work around the home. We're the ones who do the groceries, prepare the foods, all of those kinds of things. And I thought, well, if I can help the women, then I can trickle down, help everyone in the family. And I have obviously an affinity for women, being one, and I understand a lot of what's happening in a woman's body and that kind of thing. I have 2 children that I raised as a single parent myself, so I had that sort of awareness as well. Anyway, so I had these clients on the side, and I sort of noticed this pattern of talking with women, and we would agree, for example, simple step, I would say, okay, can you agree to drink more water between now and the next time we talk? And the women would be, oh, yes, that's doable. That's adding to my routine in a really practical way. I can do that. So then we'd get together a week later, and I'd say, so how you doing with that drinking extra water? Oh, yeah, I didn't do it. I'm like, okay, I know sometimes changing routines is hard. Let's try again. Is it too much what I've asked you to do? Can we agree on another strategy that would work? No, I can do it this time. The kids are back in school, my job isn't as busy, all of this kind of thing. So then we'd get together a couple of weeks later, and I'd say, so how are you doing with all, drinking extra water and doing these little things that I asked you to do and that we agreed together would be good for you? And the women go, yeah, I didn't do it. And so, as a professional, it's hard not to take that personally after a while. It's like, what am I not bringing to the table? But on the other hand, I started to think, why are women not doing what they have agreed is good for them when they're coming from a place of, I don't feel good anymore, I want to do things to feel better, I agree that this is a doable step, and then they don't do it. And so I started questioning that, and I thought, you know what, I don't know what I want to do right now in my life. I think I'll go back to school and get my master's degree and understand behavior a little bit better. I want to understand how health behavior change works. And so it started with a master's degree, looking at that, the relationship between midlife women and their eating behaviors. So what sort of directs what they do? And then it evolved into getting the academic bug and decided to do my PhD.
Okay, so it came from, it really came out of that experience as a holistic nutritionist. And it's interesting, we were talking a little bit before we started, how like I personally like have a program that I've had for 8 years that always worked. And yet all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. And you're like, there's got to be more to it than that. And this is why I've gotten to this work around behavior, around the mindset, around, I think it's really important to address that, like, everyone's like, oh, once you're over 40, things will change. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm totally good. But as I'm 43 now, it's just a little bit like every year I'm like, my body's not quite doing the same that it was before. I'm like,
right.
I don't understand. Right. Yes. And I don't think you can actually understand it until you live it. Because everyone can tell you, but my experience isn't going to be the same as yours.
Right.
But it definitely is different. And so we have to look at new ways of thinking and new ways of, acting and taking action to make those changes that used to be so simple, right? So you got into this research, and specifically, why did you go, to self-care? I mean, that seems like a pretty broad topic. Why did you start there?
Didn't necessarily stop there, but the findings from the master's degree sort of indicated that how women make choices had to do with how things made them feel, right? So when I eat this way, it makes me feel this. When I eat this, it makes me feel this way, and it had to do with pain and fatigue and that sort of thing. So I'm sort of building off that. It was like, okay, so if that's how we make these choices around food, yep, how do we make choices and decisions around the other things? How do we make choices and decisions about and part of the exploration is, what are the other things? Like, what are the other things that women do if we're sort of thinking about how the body feels and how the women say they want to feel? What are they doing to create those feelings in their body? And it led to self-care because that's sort of the term that we have.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because some people push back against that term. It is a very, very hot term. You either like it or you don't like it, and it comes with different perspectives on it. But it's the term that we have. So it's the term that I want to understand, and maybe I'll change the term. Maybe something is going to come from this research that's a better term for what it is. But it's the one that we have, and it's the one that I'm using to start the research anyway. So it's really to understand what it is that women are doing to feel the way they want to feel, and then when they do that, do they get to feel the way they want to? What gets in the way of feeling the way they want to, or doing the things that will help them feel the way they want to? And sort of the social pressures that we have around that as well.
It's so interesting. I love how this is all connected to the way that we feel, which I think is a real key in this whole movement to, how do I feel when I'm doing this? How do I feel when I'm eating this? How do I feel when I say yes to something or no to something, right? That cultural pressure to, should we be saying yes to everything? I mean, it's been interesting when I said I would be a part of the research that you're doing. I was like, wait, I want this to be a real yes. And I want to make sure that I have the time to say yes and to make it work. But I also was like, how can I not be a part of this? Because I'm looking for answers too. So I want to be part of this research because I want to know where, and we know that this is like, this is not going to be the end of the work, right? It's going to start here. No. And there's so much more to see. What's neat is through these interviews that I've been doing, other terms have come up like self-compassion and self-love, and they're all connected and together. And there is a bit of a like, oh yeah, self-care is about getting the pedicure and
Mm-hmm.
girls' weekend or whatever. But I think, and I think this is where your research seems to be going, is it's so much more than that. The pedicure is nice, but it's like the everyday stuff that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Every day we have to be taking care of ourselves and to be the best, human possible.
Right. Right. So from that preliminary findings, just because some of my interviews are done, there is a sense when you're talking about pedicures that that's indulgent self-care.
Right.
Right? That's the icing.
Yeah.
What else? Right? What is the other stuff that women do? And as you mentioned, like building barriers around your time, or building boundaries, and knowing what your boundaries are, and being okay with saying no. I love getting pushback when and you did it when you said, I'd love to be part of your research, but I can't do it for 2 weeks. And I was like, yes, awesome. Because to me, right there was evidence of you understanding your boundaries, and you were saying, yes, this is a thing I want to do, but no, not right now.
Yeah.
So that was fun for me.
Yay. Well, I'm getting better because I put a request out into the universe to do more speaking this year, and I am going on a speaking tour in a week. And I mean, it'll be past when people are watching this video, but I'm doing a speaking tour, and then I'm going to 3 cities in November for a different speaking. And I was like, okay, I have to think about every time I'm saying yes, how does it affect my family?
Mm-hmm.
But does this bring me joy? I'm like, for sure. The speaking part and the community and being around people that want to learn and grow, I am all over that. But I also had to look at the entire thing. How do I make these trips also like for example, I'm going to San Francisco on a speaking tour as part of the speaking tour. And I said to the person I'm going with, I said, is there any time for us to just like explore the city for a little bit? Because it's one of my favorite places to go. So I asked right away, I said, will there be time in the schedule for us to do that? And he said, yes, there is. And I was like, then I'm in for that trip, because I don't want to just go from city to city and not see anything. If I'm going to San Francisco, I want to see it. And to me, that is part of self-care.
Yes.
Like just being able to say, what do I want? Because so many times, and I mean, yeah, for sure. So many times in my life, I'm like, I'm just so happy that you asked me.
Right.
You must hear that. I'm just so happy that you asked me, right? But it's like, we don't think about, but hang on, when we say yes to something, we have to say no to other things, right?
Yes. And that's what I think people don't realize, or they don't put the effort into thinking about what they're saying no to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It is really like say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Because what I find really interesting too is that I've been thinking about this too with like me filling my schedule a lot these days, is that when you add things to your schedule, like a 30 or 40-minute call, it's more than 40 minutes, right? Because it's the time we both talked about getting a little bit ready because we were doing a video instead of just an audio. And then it's the time after where, I have to get the recording together and then get some information. Like everything we put in our calendar needs more space. And I think also understanding, like by saying no to certain things and giving space to all the good yes, I think is really fun. And then you and I can have this deeper conversation because I'm not in a panic or a rush because I have to be somewhere at 15 minutes after.
Right.
I think that understanding. So I'm so excited to be a part of this group of research. Now, if people are listening to this or watching this at a time when your research study is still open, can you tell us a little bit about what you're looking for someone if they were going to apply to be a participant in your study?
Well, what I'm investigating is, first of all, how do women define self-care? What is it? What does it mean to them? And then I want to understand the relationship that women see or experience between self-care and well-being. Like, what connections have they made?
Okay.
And then I want to look a little bit at what happens when the women enact self-care, and who supports that. Who are they at that moment? Are they wife? Are they mother? Are they sister? Are they daughter? Who doesn't support it? Why, in your role as wife, mother, sister, daughter, who's not supporting you, particularly when you do this thing for you? And then I also want to pay attention to when women don't enact self-care. What's going on in the moment that they make a choice not to participate in self-care? What's happening? Who's there? Who are they in that moment? And how does that make them feel? So it's a real sort of a comprehensive investigation of the experience of what happens in the moment, and what the social influences are in terms of our roles as women. And we all have a lot of them. We all inhabit a lot of them. So I just want to get a general sense of that, and then, you know, hopefully I can come up with some strategies that women do to enact self-care that might give other women ideas.
Okay.
And, you know, eventually I want to write another book. I mean, I'm going to be writing my dissertation, and I'll have PhD on the next book I write, which is very, very exciting. But I do want to write a book that's for women, to actually give them some steps and some ideas and things that maybe they've never thought of, things that I've never thought of, that other women do in order to create well-being, whatever that means to them, and again, doing whatever steps that might take.
That's exciting. And you told me, I think you're working specifically with GenX women, right?
Yes, and there's a reason for that. When you're doing your PhD, it has to be new and different, and the baby boomers have got a lot of attention over the years. And the millennials are starting to get a lot of attention. I happen to be part of Generation X.
Yep.
So I thought, well, you know what, let's explore that. And that makes it a unique contribution to the literature as well, to talk about these groups of women. So specifically looking to talk to women who are born between 1965 and 1980. And again, there's a little bit of contrast between our experiences of being in midlife versus the ones that we remember from our mothers. Like, you know, what did our mothers do, and how did we react to that, and how do our mothers look at what we're doing now, and that sort of thing. So that's some fun bits of the conversation as well.
That's definitely a fun bit of the conversation, because I share a home with my parents now. So my mom is like right there beside me but she's actually, what's really nice is my mom will be like, you know, you should ask Dan to do that. Like my husband, she's like, you already have so much on your plate. So she's really actually cognizant of the fact that she gets to see like what my life is like every day, which is a very unique experience for someone of my age, to share a home with my healthy parents, right?
Yes.
And be homeschooling and working from home. Like it's
Yes.
a lot. But yeah, I wanted to mention the age group, because yes, I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm like, nobody really talks about us.
Nobody does.
Because we're not quite the kids of the baby boomers, right? Our parents are usually a little bit older. So my parents are not quite baby boomers, right? They were born during the war. So thank you for acknowledging this age group. Where is the best way if people want to connect with you? How do they find you?
Well, I have a website, lisapetty.ca. That's petty.ca. There's a little bit of information there about the study and some of the articles that I've had published and that sort of thing there, but you can contact me through the website as well for information about the research and anything else that you might want to ask.
Great. And I mean, if we're listening to this and this research study is closed, I mean, it's still a great way to find out eventually, you know, what the results were.
Exactly.
I'm excited for this. Yes. I'm like,
yes.
Oh, this is so exciting. So,
yes.
And I know these things take time. It's, you know, obviously a PhD is a labor of love and time and effort, but, you know, you were talking about your next book and stuff. And so I'm already really excited to see where you're going. And I'm excited too about, you know, having reconnected with you in this way on a totally different topic than
yes.
I never would have thought. So as we wrap things up, what I'd love to hear from you, because you've already been speaking to so many different women, if you could just recommend one habit or small change that we could make starting right now or tomorrow after we've listened to or watched this video, what would you recommend?
I think the one thing that women need to do is question everything. Question everything. So go buy yourself a nice journal and a pen and sit down and question everything. Why do I do this? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think I need to do this? How do I feel about that? Because I think a lot of times we just go through life not even questioning what we do and whether it's what we want. And what, you know, when we push through an experience because we think it's our responsibility. Why do we feel like it's our responsibility? So it's a sense of just really lifting our heads up, looking around, and questioning, questioning why we do what we do, and are we creating those feelings that we want to feel? When do we allow other stuff to get in the way of how we want to feel? What are those other things? Who are those relationships? So just really take a moment, take an hour every day, take, whatever time you have, and really question. I mean, when you look around right now in the news, we're seeing a lot of patriarchy, right? We're seeing a lot of misogyny just kind of finally showing itself in overt ways. And I think that women are subject to that patriarchy consistently without even thinking about it.
Yes.
So I want women to start thinking, why do I feel I need to do this? Where are these rules coming from? And patriarchy doesn't just mean a male figure is directing you. It means we have this sort of cultural experience that is patriarchy, created by men for men to be successful, and it trickles down. And so I think as women, we have to just become aware of when these systems that aren't created for us or by us aren't working for us. And it comes into the home, it comes into the workplace, it comes into decisions about whether or not we're going to exercise. It's just always there. And I think it's important that we just question it. When my daughter was younger, she used to say that I was nosy because I asked a lot of questions. Of everybody, of her friends, I was constantly asking questions. Now that she's older, she says, Mom, I get it now. You're just curious. You're just always critically appraising what's going on. And I'm trying to understand why people do what they do, why they experience what they experience. But I think we need to, I would recommend anyway, because I'm nosy or curious, whatever word you want, find out those things that drive you.
Yeah. So asking yourself the question.
Yeah, asking yourself.
That's such a great thing. I hadn't even thought about that as like a strategy to start, with self-care, but it's like, take a look, just to summarize, take a journal, write down and look around, like lift your head up, look around at your life and ask yourself about all the things you're doing. And do I need to do them? And am I, is this serving me? And is it bringing me joy? And how does it make me feel? This is a great exercise. So I will be grabbing my journal. I have this is my journal, my little peacock journal.
Oh, lovely.
I have a pile of journals. I mean, I want to get away from paper, but there's something about putting a pen to paper that there is something really magical about that. There is an actual thing about writing. So that is a wonderful suggestion that I will also be taking to heart.
Excellent.
This was so wonderful. And I actually feel like there's so much more for us to talk about now that we've had this short time together, but thank you so, so much for sharing. And
I appreciate it.
Share this with people. And I'm excited to be a part of your research.
And I am too. I look forward to chatting.
Thank you.